Gentlemen, we have a caller.
Look at that.
I think it's
Hello.
Hello.
Who do we got calling in?
This is Geoff Ratliff, a.k.a. the single married guy from Pop Fly Boys.
Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Good to talk to you guys.
Good. We're glad to have you on. We're over here burning on Fox Sports. I don't know if you heard. Frank's a little pissed off about the debacle they had Sunday with cutting off 2 games before they were decided to show you the beginning of the Giant game. Did you happen to catch any of that?
I did not catch any of that, but that's kind of typical of Fox Sports. What do you expect?
Can I describe to you what happened? We
Fire away.
We have that last Minnesota Viking drive. Christian Ponder is about to take the snap. For some reason, they decide at that moment we should change to the last about 45 seconds of the Atlanta Falcon Houston Texan game. And about 12 seconds into that, they're like, "Fuck it, let's go to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman." And to me, that's bothersome. That really bothers me because what happens in those 2 previous games, we're gonna have a winner decided. And what's happening with the Giant game is nothing. There's 4 quarters of football to be played. Does that anyway bother you?
Well, yes, it definitely bothers me. So, I definitely share your sentiment that we could wait on the Giants game. If you got into the game results, you got games, especially the Denver game where you got everybody's wrapped up in this Tim Tebow phenomenon right now. People want to know how that game's going to end. The Atlanta-Houston game definitely has playoff implications in both the NFC and the AFC. So, if you add those factors on top of that, the fact that both games have playoff implications and they're in the final seconds, that's just a stupid decision by whoever's running the show at Fox.
Don't you think the bigger crime is that Joe Buck got more airtime than deserved?
I knew somebody was going to bring that up, man. I ride for Joe. I'm a St. Louis native,
Get
so
the
I
fuck
ride
outta
for
here,
Joe Buck.
ride
I
for Joe
understand that
Buck.
everybody doesn't necessarily want him on the air.
All right,
that
Jack
much,
Buck.
but,
Jack Buck I could give you, but Joe Buck? Come on, dude.
Jack was the man, dude.
Jack Buck,
No,
yeah. all
Jack was the man, but Joe's his son, man. I like Joe, but I understand that a lot of people don't.
all right.
So, yeah, that is
There's a lot of
definitely
people's
adding
sons I
insult
don't
to injury
fucking
of
like.
the fact of cutting away from playoff games.
You got anything you're burning on right now, Jeff?
What grinds your gears?
Well, I'm telling you, what's grinding me right now is this whole Albert Pujols free agency thing, man. There's been big reports today that the Marlins offered him a free agent deal, and then just within the last hour, ESPN has released another update basically saying that Albert Pujols has been offered a contract from the Cardinals. And so I've literally been on the internet all day today, man, debating back and forth with a buddy of mine about whether he should stay or whether he should go. I personally think the guy wouldn't be bad off leaving for Miami. And I know that's tough for me to say as a St. Louis native, a guy who grew up, watching the Cardinals and just seeing them win the World Series for a second time. But I think the guy's got a chance to take his legacy to a whole nother level by taking his talents to South Beach. I hate to use the cliche, but, unlike LeBron James, Albert Pujols has proven that he's a winner. He's pretty much done all that he can do in the St. Louis market. He's still young enough that he can go down to Miami.
He's
got a
young
buttload of young talent down there, a team that can definitely contend for a World Series pretty soon. And not to mention the fact that the population in Miami, Dade County, is about 55% Hispanic, Latin American, and he's from the Dominican Republic. So this guy's got a chance to go down there and set up a whole new legacy for himself and do something that nobody else in the history of baseball has ever done, which is win multiple World Series in 2 different cities.
Well, I don't know about multiple World Series in 2 different cities. I think they will win one in Florida if he were to join and they keep these pieces going as it seems they are. And I think what I like about that is it's going to make him the best player of our generation, which makes me happy because I don't want A-Rod to have it. I don't want Bonds to have it. I don't want any of those guys. But my question to you, is there a number that you would say, well, you know what, maybe it's worth keeping Albert around for 9-10 years at a certain number?
If I'm the Cardinals?
Yeah. How about just from the basis of people around the Cardinals?
This is a tough one for me to say because the Cardinals are a very unique baseball team. This is a franchise that has been able to win and sustain and always bring people out to the stadium without necessarily having stars. The Cardinals could struggle and not have Albert Pujols, and they'll still draw 3 million people. So from a business standpoint, I can understand if they let the guy walk. Personally, I probably wouldn't go above 8 years and $25 million a year. That's just a random number that I'm throwing out there, that if I'm the Cardinals, I don't necessarily feel comfortable going beyond that. The reason why is I think that John Mozeliak is one of the smartest young GMs in the game, and I think they can take that $25 million and put it to other pieces. They can add a lesser free agent and put somebody in the outfield, shift Lance Berkman to first base, and maybe invest that money in starting pitching in the bullpen, and the Cardinals can still be competitive. I know it would suck for the Cardinals nation to lose Albert Pujols, one of the greatest players to ever play the history of the game, but Cardinals fans above and beyond everything are loyal to the Cardinals jersey, not to any individual player. But they'll get over it. The Cardinals will continue to compete. I would not break the bank to keep Albert Pujols in town, and I won't be mad at him if he decides to leave. The guy's got to make the best decision that he thinks for his family, for his legacy, and maybe look at a new opportunity. I wouldn't be mad at him if he goes, and I won't be mad at the Cardinals if they don't sign him.
All right, I agree with what you're saying on there. The thing I'm burning on tonight is the NHL. The NHL is a lost sport right now in the U.S. It's coming back up. But Ryan Miller, who was the face of USA hockey, him and Patrick Kane, the last time the Olympics went out, he got a concussion from a debatable hit from Milan Lucic. And then the first game back he comes on, the Predators' Jordan Tutu comes in, and he goes right after him. He only gets a 2-game suspension from that on Miller's first game back from a concussion. Did you happen to catch that at all?
You know what? This is very interesting that I did catch the highlights on this play, and it's very interesting that you brought this up because I literally just wrote a column about how the NHL is being slept on, and I posted on Pop Fly Boys last week. So if you get a chance to read it, check it out. But basically what happened is I went home for Thanksgiving to St. Louis, went to a hockey game, went to a Blues Kings game, and I've always felt that NHL hockey is one of the greatest live sporting events ever. It's one of the biggest sports that you miss. You have a huge difference between watching it on TV and watching the sport live. So if you guys don't get the hockey games regularly, you should check it out.
Completely agreed.
But, I mean, it's phenomenal to watch in person. It really is. Like, football is the only thing that really comes close to it. The pace of the action, the speed of the game, the fans are so passionate. I mean, there's no such thing as a casual hockey fan. If you're at a stadium, every fan there knows what they're talking about. They're into the game. They're cheering. They're rooting. It's awesome. And it's interesting that you bring up the part about Miller because, ESPN, the magazine, just did this feature article about a month or so ago about how Brendan Shanahan was basically going on this rampage to clean up the game. And then you have this Ryan Miller situation happen, like literally 2 or 3 weeks after Sid the Kid comes back after being out for almost a year. So I think the NHL's got to step it up and do something dramatic with these suspensions or fines or a combination of the two to really take these dirty hits out of the game.
Jeff, let me cut you off right there, dude.
It kills the game to have these star players out. It really does.
Jeff, you're going to tell me that first hit was a dirty hit just because he's a goalie?
From Lucic, I think he's talking about.
Well, that's a tough one because there's a lot of people that say that Miller was so far out of the crease
he's outside
he
the crease.
Exposed himself.
He's outside the fucking crease, so that to me that's not a dirty hit. The fact this second hit was uncalled. I wouldn't say uncalled for. It seemed like the defenseman kind of let him into it. Frank brought that point up before. So you don't hit the goalie in the crease. I get it. It's kind of like soccer. You don't fucking whatever you do in soccer.
You cannot compare hockey to soccer, man.
It's the same premise. It's the same
I'm about to
premise.
kill your mic for doing that.
It's the same premise. The goalie has a fucking box. But my point being, the first hit wasn't dirty. I don't give a fuck if you're the face of if you're on Wheaties or whatever, dude. You're outside your crease. You're open fucking game. You're a hockey player. You should be hit. That's how I feel about it.
You know what? That's a fair point. I can't really argue with you on that. I mean, Ryan Miller's got to know if he comes that far out of the crease that he's exposing himself to risk. So, fair point.
Here's the one difference between the two hits is I think Lucic could have missed them if he wanted to. Tutu, me and Matt were talking about this earlier, he was almost like guided right into him. So I just don't think.
Frank, they show this. ESPN shows this that Tutu looks up before he's at the crease. He looks up. He sees Miller. He has a chance to go behind the net, to go up front, to do something, and he puts his shoulder down.
It's easier to score from in front of the net than behind it.
It's easier to score
from in front of the net than behind it.
From right there, you gotta take the safety of the goalie.
No, you don't. That's not your teammate.
I don't agree with
How
that.
about his own safety, not getting knocked the fuck out by the defenseman?
He could have skated right behind the net, and there would have been no problem.
But then you had no chance to score from behind the net.
I gotta be honest, never played hockey. I don't give a fuck about the other team.
He didn't have the puck. He didn't have the puck. score.
The other guy's goalie, not my business.
Listen, if somebody passes you the puck, you cannot score from behind the net. What you can do is set up.
That's false.
If
you can score from behind the net.
You can set up a pass from behind the net. All right. You can't.
All right, can we move on here to
No, I just want to ask Geoff one question here. How's the feeling around St. Louis hockey? The Blues there, the new realignment they're going to. Well, what's the feeling in St. Louis about the NHL?
Well, St. Louis is just a pretty low sports time, man. So we're pretty geeked up this year. The Blues started off really slow, but they've turned it around right now. They're playing really hot hockey. The team should be back in the playoffs and ready to contend. One of their better young players just came back from being out. From being injured for a long while. David Perron just came back a couple of weeks ago, so he's really re-energized the team. We've got a great goalie tandem. We've got Halak, who was great a couple of years ago, and then we've got the backup Elliott, who's actually leading the NHL in save percentage and goals against average. So the future of St. Louis hockey is looking great. As far as the realignment is concerned, I think the big issue there for us that's important is maintaining the big rivalries we have with Detroit and Chicago. Anything else we could give a fuck about, man. As long as we get to see those guys on a regular basis, that's what's important. And I actually like the realignment. I think the NHL has done a good job with preserving a lot of natural rivalries, both geographically and historically, with maintaining rivalries between a lot of the original 6 teams. So, they got a good thing going on there.
All I want to say is you jit my Sabres off in that Brad Boyes trade. My man has done absolutely nothing in the year he's been in Buffalo. So I just want to say something about that. The only beef I have with the new realignment system is the Northeast division right now. It stays the same, which is Montreal, Toronto, Buffalo, Boston, and Ottawa, and they add Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't see how that one fits in geographically. I don't see how it fits in anywhere. That's the only beef I have with the new realignment.
If you look at both of the new regions in the Eastern Conference, I mean, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, you got to have the Florida teams in there somewhere, and they really don't geographically fit with anybody else on the Eastern Corridor. So, it's kind of a flip a coin and figure out which one of the Eastern regions you're going to put them in. So, one thing that I think Gary Bettman and a lot of people in the league have admitted when they did this plan is that it's not going to appease everybody, but this was the best plan that they could implement. That would make it easier for the most people. But they knew that when they did this realignment, it wasn't going to make everybody happy. They were just like, what can we do that'll piss off the least amount of people and still preserve some of these geographic and historic rivalries? And so I think they did the best that they could. It's the lesser of all evils, I guess, is the best way to look at it.
Okay, now moving on to the sport that people give a fuck about.
Fuck you, man.
Anyone with half a brain in their head gives a fuck about hockey.
Yeah, it's fun.
They should give a fuck about hockey, man.
Playoff
it's a great
time.
sport, I'm telling you.
All right, it's fun playoff time. So let's be serious.
If anyone wants that Capitals Penguins game the other night, you would have saw good hockey. So get out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Shut your pie hole.
Get the fuck out of here.
Anyway, Geoff, I'm not doing this because you're black, but we got to talk about the NBA. All right, I want to know. I want to know what you think personally about the Chris Paul, the Dwight Howard, where they're gonna land. Me personally, I've heard some crazy shit about the Knicks giving up.
The Knicks cannot get anybody.
They're talking about trading Carmelo for Dwight Howard.
That makes no sense.
Then what's
all right, first of all, let's kill all this bullshit talk right now. The Knicks are not getting Dwight Howard in a trade, so let's not even waste any valuable airtime talking about that. They don't have the assets to get it done. The only way it would be even possible to do it is if they traded away Amari Stoudemire. If you're going to do it, you don't trade Melo because you need the inside-outside combo. The only way you could even think about it if you're the Knicks about getting Dwight Howard is to offer up Amari Stoudemire. And if I'm the Orlando and I got a chance to choose between Amari Stoudemire and Andrew Bynum, I'm taking Bynum 10 times out of 10, maybe 11 out of 10. So that's a done deal.
I might take the package, but I'm not taking. I don't know about Bynum. He's often injured.
They both have injury issues. I mean, let's not forget that Amari Stoudemire's had microfracture surgery on his knee. Now, granted, he's been healthy the past few years since he came back from it, but he could just as easily fall off the wagon and become Tracy McGrady next year. You never know. So if I'm Orlando, and I'm giving up one of the best centers in the game, you got to give me an elite center back.
Dude,
what about one guy who hasn't been injury prone in Brook Lopez? Can the Nets put together a package to get Howard, to move him with Williams, get Williams to stay, get Howard in there as they go to Brooklyn?
there's some big talk about that, and I think that's one of the deals that's been slept on. You know, everybody's talking about this Knicks talk. Everybody's talking about maybe going to the Lakers. I'm telling you, the Nets actually have a great package of not only players, because Brook Lopez is a good building block, but they actually have the best combination of draft picks to offer Orlando
100%.
to not only have good pieces to have for this year, but to also build for the future. So I think the Nets would be brilliant if they went ahead and got Dwight Howard and were able to re-sign him and Darren Williams and then open up the new stadium next year with those two. Come on, man. They're an instant contender in the East.
I agree 100%.
All right, now that they got their fantasy trades out the way, give it to me. What do you see? What do you see happening? Like, if someone has a gun to your head, this trade is going to happen.
All right, so here's what I really see happening. I don't know where Chris Paul is going to end up, but I'm gonna open up my crystal ball. I'm going to say that both Dwight Howard and Chris Paul end up in L.A., but not both with the same team. Dwight Howard, I feel like, is going to end up with the Lakers. Chris Paul is going to end up with the Clippers, and the Lakers and Clippers are going to have a beautiful rivalry for the next few years. You know, I got a buddy of mine I went to college with who's a diehard Lakers fan, and I asked him this the other day on Twitter. I said, if you could have either Howard or Paul, which one would you take? He said Howard, and it's a no-brainer. A guy that good defensively on the inside would make the Lakers great, not only because of his presence and he's better than Bynum, but he takes all pressure off of Paul Gasol. You can let that guy continue to be a soft, no guarding anybody pussy and just play offense and let Dwight Howard sew up the inside. Shit, Kobe Bryant might play till he's 42 and try to catch Bill Russell if they get Dwight Howard. And then Chris Paul, I feel like the Clippers have not a lot of young pieces to put together with Chris Paul. He'll fucking average 15 assists a game for the next 5 years playing with Blake Griffin, and that's going to be an exciting show to watch. So that's what I really think is going to happen. That's my objective opinion.
Now you mentioned that Clippers deal to team him with Blake Griffin there. What do they have to give up in order to get them? Is it going to be a sign and trade with DeAndre Jordan and Eric Gordon there too? What are they going to have to give up?
They're saying they will not offer the Clippers saying they will not include Eric Gordon in a deal to get Chris Paul, and I don't think they have to. I think if they do a package with DeAndre Jordan, what's the rookie they had last year, Al Farouk?
Yes, Al Farouk.
The kid out of Wake Forest, and then there's one other player that they were mentioning in there. Not Eric Gordon. Who's the point guard they got? Bledsoe, the kid out of Kentucky. So they were talking about a package of those three guys and maybe a draft pick for Chris Paul. I think if you're New Orleans, you've got to look at a package like that because all three of those guys are guys who can come in and start for you right away, and you can build a foundation for the future. So I think think about this, man. The Clippers with Chris Paul, Eric Gordon, and Blake Griffin, that's sick.
That's a nice little trio of their own they got going on.
It doesn't seem like Chris Paul is interested in being on the second LA team, which, let's face it, I don't give a fuck, Blake Griffin or not, you're the second LA team. That's like being the Mets in New York. All right, let's be real.
What I was wondering is, do you think anyone has the ability to keep him? Because his desire to go to New York is far more than anything else.
He's dictating the same way Carmelo Anthony dictated last year. I'm not signing an extension anywhere unless it's with the Knicks.
But he said he's not signing an extension anywhere regardless of where he gets traded. So the risk that so here's the thing, and the reason he
but they know that he'll sign with the Knicks though. Everyone knows. If he gets traded to the Knicks, he'll sign with the Knicks.
The Knicks just don't have anything to trade for.
But he's saying he won't sign before the season's over because of the way the new collective bargaining agreement is set up. He gets the most money if he waits to actually go into free agency and re-signs with the team that trades for him. So there's some risk with any team that we're able to get him. I just think the Knicks are a pipe dream. And the one thing that's being missed is that Chris Paul, unlike Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul has said, at least according to various reports, that it is important to him that the Hornets get a good package in return for him. So he doesn't want to just leave the team high and dry
and just
force his way to the Knicks and have them get left with nothing. So that's a big difference between him and Carmelo Anthony. I have to say I respect Chris Paul a lot for taking that perspective.
Sounds like bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with Matty. I think that's just bullshit so he doesn't get trashed the way Melo did it towards the end of the
I said that about Sullivan County Community College, too.
Clanton early.
But, Geoff, we want to thank you for coming on with us. This is Geoff from the Pop Fly Boys. You can follow him on Twitter at the Single Mary Guy. You can check out my blog, which has nothing to do with sports, which is pretty cool, on the Pop Fly Boys website. I just wrote about my recent baby shower, which was fucking nuts. But, Geoff, thank you again for coming on with us, dude.
Hey, no problem, man. I was actually at a baby shower myself on Sunday, so I feel your pain.
Wasn't it? It was like rough. Right?
Did you say the words "fucking baby"? Like, in a rough, like right now, what's going on in the sports world? Let's try to keep that one out of here.
I like that, Frank. All right, Geoff. Thank you very much, man.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah,
Thanks,
take care.
Chief.
You're fucking, Frank, you're a fucking idiot.